Let's get into that in a second. But first, I wanted to mention, because I made a prediction on your show a couple of months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and I laid it out in no uncertain terms. And a lot of people really thought that I was making a very kind of off-the-wall prediction. But listen to this, Alex. I said on your show a few months ago that Facebook, with their virtual currency game Farmville, was going to end up as a way to just basically push debt onto unsuspecting users using their virtual currency. Now, if you look this up as a headline on Guardian, Farmville user runs up a 900-pound debt, roughly $1,200. A 12-year-old boy spent 625 pounds on his mother's credit card and another 288 pounds of his own savings on the Facebook game Farmville. Now, this is the beginning. This is the start of virtual enslavement and virtual currencies. Get these kids hooked on what looks like innocent games on the Internet and through Facebook, and before you know it, they owe real money to these people. They've got real credit card debts. Of course, they're being charged extortionary rates, and now they're under the gun to pay back these debts using these so-called innocent games. And you're going to see this become an explosion over the next 2 or 3 years. The virtual currency business right now.
Well, what about Second Life? What about Second Life, where people are paying thousands of dollars for a fictitious Ferrari, and they spend all their time on it like it's the real world?
But they go into debt to pay for the fictitious Ferrari. So it's similar. It's like 12-year-olds doing exactly what the people in Germany did when they bought fictitious bonds from Goldman Sachs. They wake up one day and they say, wait a minute, this was a fictitious bond. But Goldman says, wait, you still owe us $10 billion.
Yeah,
for a 12-year-old kid, he reaches into his mother's purse, takes out a credit card. Now he owns $1,200 to Facebook, and he says, wait a minute, I thought it was a game. I thought it was fictitious money. They say,
we got a break.
Well, no, actually, you owe us the money, and, of course, you have to give us the money right away.
Max, we got a break. When we come back, let's get into this. We found the London Guardian article. We'll put it up on screen during the break. And with Half-Life and all these other, or Second Life, it's incredible. Video bookstore at Infowars.com, where you can get Invisible Empire, New Lure Defined, our newest film just released last week to rave reviews. Really is a powerful tool. And premiering in 48 hours at PrisonPlanet.tv, Police State, The Rise of FEMA. It's been 8 years since I've made, or right at 8 years, since I've made a police state film that covers the FEMA camps, the globalist takeover, false flag terror, everything. This film will wake people up, so you can order the DVD at Infowars.com or call 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139, or again, Infowars.com. Okay, Max-Keiser, finishing up. We'll throw that London Guardian article back up on screen, where it says that this game Farmville user runs up 900-pound, or basically a $1,500 debt. 12-year-old boy didn't know basically what he was part of. And you said this is something new that the manipulators are going to do. I remember you probably 4 or 5 months ago talking about it here on the show. Listeners remember it as well. Why is this so important?
Because Facebook has over 400 million users, and they're going to start to roll out a new virtual currency. And this virtual currency is a new currency that is going to have no collateral whatsoever. They can just issue all the currency they want, but it does have interest-bearing attached to it. So you'll be looking at your account, you'll say, here's 10,000 more Facebook dollars, and you'll start spending it, and you'll start playing with it on Farmville, or you'll start interacting on these various virtual platforms. And at the end of the month, you'll say, well, the interest on your virtual currency is due. You owe us $20, real money. And I'm looking at a story that you posted on your site on March 20 called, it says, a German central bank admits that credit is created out of thin air. This is on Infowars.com. It says that, talks about most people think that banks lend solely on deposits, but in fact, the German central bank admits that they lend without any deposits at all. That's the definition of a virtual currency. They just lend. They have no deposits. Now, Facebook, which has 400 million users, soon to have 500 million users, are going to just lend virtual currency to people with an interest attached to it. They're going to be interacting with it, and at the end of the month, they'll owe real dollars interest, which, of course, if they can't pay it, then it kicks up to the federal government. Then they start to garnish your pay. Then they start to try to get the cash from you, and you're right back at that casino gulag that I've talked about so many times.
Well, let's go one further. I remember when I was in college and had absolutely no money, literally 2, 3, 4 credit cards a week were coming to me. And now that I have decent credit and I'm not in debt that much, I don't get but a few credit cards a year sent to me in the mail. So they send you credit cards backed up with nothing, 20, 30% interest, and literally make you a debt slave. That's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, exactly. You're dealing with the same thing, except it's more insidious than that, because because online, it's in a game environment. And here's another story you should look at. It's on the Financial Times. It's called Games Prey on Your Mind by Christopher Caldwell. It talks about how these environments, like on Facebook and other places, are designed by behavioral economists and casino operators to get you addicted, as you would in any casino. So it's not even economics at this point. It's just predatory lending by casino operators using these virtual currencies. It's a great story. It talks about in detail this new trend of applying behavioral economics and psychology to get people hooked on these virtual games and to just keep drawing down on virtual dollars, which means that they have to pay back in real money on the interest on those dollars.
And let's be clear, that's what the New World Order is, and they define themselves this way now. It's global private central banks who are Ponzi scheme operators, but instead of the Ponzi scheme going bust and they've got to hightail with the money, now they take over your society after each bust that they create, and everything is literally like a matrix-like system where you take the game Second Life and others with tens of millions of users. They're spending 10, 20 hours a day in some cases. In fact, I've read articles of people dying after 3-4 days playing these games, not even getting up from their chair, and they're spending real money.
A couple was raising a virtual child on an online game. They were in the video parlor for 12 hours. They neglected their real child who died of starvation.
And so when we talk about not being able to wake the public up that they're under mind control, now they admit what we already knew over a decade ago, propaganda placement. The corporations call it behavior placement, where the government and corporations are paying for ads that brainwash us inside of the television program. So when you're talking to your neighbor and you can't get through to them about real issues, it's because they're literally under mind control.
Economically speaking, what banks know and what politicians know is that everybody will take free loans. And it goes back to the days when General Motors Acceptance Corporation, or GMAC, figured out that they could lend money to people to buy cars, and that's how they became number one over Ford Motor. And that's why GMAC became much bigger to Ford Motor, the lending to buy cars, than the actual car manufacturing. That's why they allowed cars manufactured to go to Japan, because they made more money on lending and not on car manufacture. And that trend has been in place for 30 years, where lending and financialization of the economy has taken precedence over all other aspects of the economy, and it has created a society that only looks at interest rates to determine their own self-worth and how much money they owe at the end of the month. And they're constantly willing to gamble at any given moment to try to get that debt level down. And, of course, they're always going to lose, because the economy is operated by casino operators whose business it is to create losing gambles.
And so we have this false economy waging war against the real economy. Another reason for the fake environmental movement, that allows the casino operators to go in and selectively shut down any business or corporation that doesn't play ball with them. I mean, this is a psychological warfare system run by a bunch of criminals, and the public is almost defenseless because they've been conditioned by the mind control that it's cool to not care.
Well, because these because these games and currencies are attached to basic technologies like the use of a phone or other basic utilities like electricity, it's unavoidable, or like television. And so people come into contact with this, whether they like it or not. They are forced to come into contact with this, and they're forced to become hooked on this. So it's just like a ghetto environment. People in the ghetto get hooked on drugs because it's all around them. And this new gulag casino ghetto of virtual currencies preys on the fact that people are unable to escape from this digital casino gulag envelopment of their lives by bankers and technologists and virtual currency lenders.
And now doctors are all over the place saying the 3D televisions literally put people into a dream state, even more than regular TV, and that it's causing seizures, it's causing people to pass out, it's causing mental illness, and all of television is about to convert to 3D. We are being inserted into this mental illness.
Well, that's just part and parcel of a trend, which is to negate the reality of real world, the natural forces of reality, and to accept a digital reality as being real. And that's what's so fantastic about this volcano in Iceland, is that it's forcing people to understand that there is a real world, that there is an Earth that can do things that will change people's lives. And for this reason, this volcano in Iceland is quite important for people to understand that it's not a digital event, it's not a Hollywood event. This is an actual volcano affecting the actual planet Earth that we live in. And maybe this, if it can shut down the grid and get people to understand that they are human for at least a brief moment, then maybe there's a moment of sanity. And we see the